Yo Joes, hope everybody enjoyed the History of G.I. Joe 1986 edition and that it was worth the wait. Sure took a long time to work and finish on that one, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of the stars of G.I. Joe's 1986 lineup. It is the Cobra Emperor Serpentor, and this beautiful piece right here has been loaned to me by my good friend Lou, fellow Joe fan, and it is in immaculate condition. So before I get it back to Lou, I was going to take a look at this one in depth, taking a look at the box first with the Serpentor card art on the front. I'm not entirely sure if this is to the scale of the toy. The figure looks like he might be a little bit smaller, or that the Air Chariot is bigger than the actual Air Chariot toy is. It might just be because he's hunching, but Serpentor is one of the taller figures. I know the Real American Hero figures are all about the same size, but Sergeant Slaughter and Serpentor are just a tiny bit taller. Certainly with his helmet and his back Cobra, whatever that thing is called, definitely adds to his height. But just the figure in general looks bigger. And I'm just going to open the box up here and take the figure out so that I can move the box around. And this is going to be one of the most terrifying reviews, because this is one of the most fragile figures that you will find in the G.I. Joe lineup. So I'll just tuck that back in. Taking a look at the box first. And this is a Canadian version. So in Canada, by law, everything has to appear in English and in French. So Le Français is underneath. But we have Serpentor Cobra Emperor with Air Chariot, and it says it includes the Cobra Emperor with swivel arm battle grip. He also comes with a snake, which they don't mention. And over on the back we've got some vintage schematic type of stuff letting us know what is going on here. There's the head on the Air Chariot. Look how beautiful this Air Chariot looks. This is much more gold shimmery looking than the actual toy ended up being. Highly detailed Cobra shroud, movable guns, so it's not just this floating chariot form, you can actually attack with it. And the file card. His code name is Serpentor. I guess that's also his real name. He is the Cobra Emperor, and this is quite an epic bio. I almost imagine a voice that's echoing reading this, just like Serpentor's echoing voice, or He-Man's echoing voice. He is not a normal person. He's like this mythic master of the universe style of character. A secret cabal of Cobra scientists, under the direction of the Interrogator and Destro, comb the tombs, sarcophagi, and relics of the great despots of history to find cells with DNA traces. From these long-dead genetic blueprints, they produced a composite clone with the military genius of Napoleon, the ruthlessness of Julius Caesar, the daring of Hannibal, and the fiscal acumen of Attila the Hun. The ultimate Cobra Emperor, a master of political intrigue and a brilliant tactician. He is capable of wresting power from Cobra Commander for the benefit of the Interrogator and Destro. Fortunately for the Joes, the Cobra Emperor's own ambitions were not taken into consideration by his creators. And the quote reads, "His eyes have seen the legions of Rome trample the Gauls and the Nerviae into the dust. His hand lifted the horsehair baton that signaled the first charge of the Carthaginian armored elephant phalanx. His ears have heard the rattle of the French cuirassiers on the streets of Moscow. But it is his mind we must fear the most. The thoughts of the Cobra Emperor have not drifted from global conquest since the reign of King Solomon." So that is a really epic bio, very different from the military-esque bios of the Joes and even the Cobras. This guy is a mythic figure, or like a historical conqueror. And here's everything that was included in the box, including some blueprints. So we can open these up And there's instructions on where to place the stickers and whatnot, but the really interesting thing about these blueprints was always opening them up and taking a look at all of the schematic information. As Patreon exclusives, I've gone through a couple of these blueprints one by one, detailing what all this stuff is in blueprint breakdown videos. So just to give you a quick taste of what those are like, just going through all of the different points here. Number 1 is a Koblar fiber reinforced battle shield. So this was always a fun part of G.I. Joe toys, looking up where's number 1, and that's that shield right there. Number 2 is the Cobra shroud covered ray dome. So this thing, the snake head, I guess is the shroud ray dome. Number 3 is the vertical pitch control stabilizers, and you find that's these things right here, these little fins. Number 4 is EMP twin turbojet engines. So that's on the front here, and it's molded in detail, but that's the great thing about the blueprint breakdowns. They let you know that this is more than just a couple of bumps on plastic. It actually has a purpose to it. Number 5 is the hover engine housing intake, and we find it's pointing to the front right there. That's the intake right there. Number 6 is the horizontal guidance winglets. So these little curved parts of the wing right here, that's not just a curved part of the wing, that's the horizontal guidance winglets. Number 7 is the autoload 7.62mm strike attack guns. And since Serpentor didn't come with an actual gun, that's how he does the damage, aside from his verbal insults. Number 8 is the counter-rotating hover props, which is on the other side. It's on the bottom. So that's underneath here, which this is one of the few parts of the air chariot that actually moves. So this part, I remember, comes off. Well, I don't want to force that now, but I remember when you first assemble this thing out of the box, this comes off. You can plug it into there, and it lets you turn that thing right up there. And instead of just calling it that thing, now I can call it the counter-rotating hover props. And number 9 is the pod rotation servo systems, which is connected to that. Number 10 is the fingertip roller type controls. So number 10 right here is how Serpentor controls this thing. Number 11 is the ballistics storage compartments. Right in there, you see that little detail? Right there by where his feet would go? Those are storage compartments, so they don't actually open, but in pretend they do. You can pretend they open. And number 12 is the secondary vertical guidance stabilizer. So that's on the back there too. This little fin right there, that's not just a fin, it's a secondary vertical guidance stabilizer. So very cool to actually have the original real blueprints. Digital images on the internet are great too, but there's nothing like real paper. It's cool. So that's Serpentor's air chariot, and it is made of a really beautiful, shimmery gold material, which does not suffer from gold plastic syndrome. This stuff has a lot of give to it. It's not quite, oh, there we go. It's coming apart a little bit on one side, not much on the other. That could be easily fixed with either just a little bit of maybe crazy glue or clear nail polish, or some other type of clear coat like that, just to give it a little bit of a better grip. But see, that's got a little bit of a give to it. That's not going to break. So I wish the figure was made out of this stuff, because it's much more durable than what the figure is made of. The head as well. I really like that it has a couple of moving parts. Like this is it's a working little handle right there, which allows you to move the snake head. And the snake head is easily removable. It just plugs in with a peg like that. But it's nice that you can kind of make tilt to the side inquisitively. Or to the other side. And then the guns are great too. Just these giant machine guns, which are on pivots as well. So it makes sense that he would have a lot of range to try to shoot the Sarge or whoever. And then they don't move much, but it's cool that these are separate parts too. Just a little bit of give one way or another. And then we saw this thing, how it spins around. And it does have one peg to hold the Cobra Emperor there. So a simplistic vehicle, but really cool, and just enough cool little play features that you don't just toss it to the side like the Triple T. I always enjoyed that one when I was a kid. Serpentor also includes a snake, naturally, and these, some of them have changed color over the years. The one that I had was the same color as the Air Chariot, gold, and I lost mine some years back, but I remember before it went off into the void, wherever it ended up, it was still gold color. This one looks darker, so I think the color has changed on this particular one over the years. So there are different, I guess they use different materials, or the material was affected differently over the years. But a cool snake. There aren't too many snake toys in G.I. Joe, and it's nice that this one is made of flexy, bendable material. Nice sculpting on it too, and after the G.I. Joe movie, I always use this little guy as Cobra Commander. He was once a man, so cool that you can actually have a snake with your Serpentor. So that's the Air Chariot and the snake, and next we're going to be taking a look at
Silence, you vociferous little worm!
Not this again. You know what? I know how to deal with this.
My favorite nectar from days gone by.
That's what I thought. Money talks and Serpentor walks. Alright, this is the Serpentor figure, and this is going to be one of the scariest reviews that I've done on this channel. Mainly because if this was mine, no biggie. Easy come, easy go. Sometimes hard come, easy go. But this is my friend's Serpentor, and it is immaculate. It is beautiful. It looks like it was never touched, and he is made out of that gold plastic syndrome plastic. So he is extremely fragile, very breakable. And you might be wondering why I'm so nervous about handling this guy when I was smacking him around and having him smack people around in the G.I. Joe 86 video. I was using this guy. This is my original Serpentor for any shot in that video where Serpentor is smacking someone or getting smacked or thrown around. So no mint condition Serpentors were harmed in that video. I just used my original one with a anniversary cape. But I remember the tooth breaking off of my original Serpentor and going, well, that's weird. Because my Joes, other than the thumbs occasionally breaking off, or the waist piece, the Joes were pretty tough. And this guy's tooth broke off from very little handling, and then his helmet cracked right apart. So you can probably see where I've glued it back together in multiple spots. And that's when I started to realize, wow, this guy he is not made of the same stuff as the other Joes. I mean, literally and figuratively, he's assembled from the DNA of the world's greatest leaders and conquerors. But he's also assembled from some of the cheapest, or maybe not cheap at the time, but it just hasn't held up. It's kind of loose, and he's got loose legs. But that's my original Serpentor, in case anyone was curious about that. This is the actual original Hasbro one, and he did include a knife, which is made of floppy material. Not too floppy, though. We're not talking Bandai Thundercats or some Masters of the Universe weapons that just are permanently crooked. It's a nice little dagger, and I like that he has a historical weapon. So I just always imagine this being hundreds of years old, maybe thousands of years old, as old as him. It's cool that he included a relic. And also some kind of a technical gadget looking thing on his arm as well. So even though he's a very historical figure, I really like that he's got some gadgetry on his hand as well, but the outfit is just amazing. Just so unlike anything we had seen in G.I. Joe or Cobra, or especially the Dreadnoks. Up to that point, he's just covered in scales all over the place. This back part comes off. It's like a backpack. So the cape too is just incredible. The original cape, beautiful condition, with sparkles all throughout it. So if you have enough light on it, it's like a diamond. It just really catches the sparkliness of this beautiful cape. And he does include somewhat of a backpack. It's this big kind of cobra looking thing. Again, very unique, and I love that they added that onto him to add a little bit of height, size, presence to the Cobra Emperor. And the cape just slides on like so. And I always loved the mysterious head. Wasn't sure, it always kind of looked like Grunt's head in there, or maybe it was based on that or built off of like a Grunt head. But I love the mysteriousness of there. You can't see if he has hair. Can't really see his whole face. He's shrouded by the fangs, and beautiful sculpting on the head too. This is really inspired. Whether you love the idea or hate the idea of Cobra creating a Cobra Emperor, this is really, in terms of a display piece, I'd say Serpentor is one of the nicest. Just sit him on your shelf or on your desk. Display pieces for G.I. Joe. So you can attach him ever so carefully, trying not to split anything here. And for the handles, I always just had him leaned forward a little bit, put his hand on one of the handles. You're risking breaking a thumb off if you try to get him to actually grip the handle, but that'll do. And then the other hand in the air with the dagger, so it's kind of his version of Sarge's swagger stick, beckoning Cobra to press forward. I always really enjoyed that Serpentor. It's nice that there's a little spot for the snake to sit to. I always enjoyed the fact that Serpentor wasn't a cowardly Cobra like Cobra Commander and so many other Cobras who had these dastardly plans to rule the world, but then when push came to shove, their keisters would hit the ground and then they would run. So the 5-parter where Serpentor is introduced on the cartoon, Arise Serpentor Arise, brilliantly done. One of my favorite G.I. Joe episodes, series, because they took 4 episodes to build this character up. 4 episodes of searching for MacGuffins and Cobra trying to create him, G.I. Joe trying to prevent his creation. 4 episodes, and at the end of the 4th, he is created, and that's when all the Joe fans were like, uh-oh, episode 5, it's on. What's going to happen now? And then in that 5th episode, he didn't turn into a joke. Like, he thumps Sergeant Slaughter, he smacks Cobra Commander around, he crushes he attacks with Cobra, and he just crushes his opposition temporarily. And then G.I. Joe comes in and they save the day. But Cobra loses not really through any fault of Serpentor. And the one scene I really always loved about Arise Serpentor Arise in Part 5 was when they're running, which is what they always do, and he's yelling at them, "Why are you running?" He doesn't understand. He is a being created out of will and fortitude and courage and strength and all the bad stuff too. Maliciousness and ego and aggression, power, and he just can't comprehend why his forces would retreat on him. So he reluctantly follows along, trying to convince them to stay, to be something that they aren't, which is courageous and never give up. So in terms of villains, I'd have to say Serpentor is actually one of my favorite 80s villains, because he isn't just a sinister, comedic, ridiculous buffoon. He's a real deal. He's serious. And as not believable as some people might think Sergeant Slaughter was, it always worked for me because Slaughter and Serpentor were yin and yang. One didn't work without the other, and I think that's why I always loved the Sarge so much, because there was Serpentor always there, ready to throw the Sarge through a wall. So if you own Serpentor and the Air Chariot, I would highly recommend getting one of these little flight stands. I got it from an eBay seller who I don't believe is in operation anymore, but a quick search just now on eBay shows that the exact same style is still available, so maybe using the same designs, but it's a very simple, affordable little stand, and the way it works is that these prongs just fit into here. So there is a gap right here, which is where the prongs feed back through, like that, so that they'll go all the way to the bottom, like so, which holds it really securely. You don't have to worry about it falling off. Especially don't want this guy falling off, since he's more likely to break a limb off than many of the other G.I. Joes. So just giving him that little bit of elevation makes such a huge difference. The Air Chariot is this hovering, flying thing. It really adds to the aura, the specter of Serpentor. And just getting him a few inches off the ground, I think just makes the Air Chariot look even better. In 2007, a modern version of Serpentor was released as part of the Anniversary line, and here it is. It's not really one of the better Anniversary renditions. The box art is not the original box art. I guess they didn't want to. I mean, this is so tied with the Air Chariot, you can't really just have the guy standing there squatting. So I get that, but this doesn't look anything like the original Serpentor. The figure doesn't either. He doesn't. I don't know how you leave off the Cobra, gills, whatever it is, backpack. The sword is really lovely. I like that it's, again, a historical looking sword. He's got this weapon here too. It's cool that he has these ancient looking weapons, and this waist piece is cool too, but they've really revamped the figure. He's still got the snakes that the original figure has on his shoulders, which I guess in the G.I. Joe movie he was using them as spears. He could just pull them off and throw them, but this is a figure right here. That's pretty much all I can say about that. And the Air Chariot was also released in the 25th Anniversary line, and I've done a few tweaks here. The 25th Anniversary Air Chariot is made of a much duller plastic. You get this really beautiful, gleaming, speckled gold look to the original one, and this is just like, looks like wax. Those honey wax candles? That's exactly what that looks like. Just no shine, no shimmer to it. I've done a customization here on the front part, because I still had this front. Should look up the blueprints to remember what that's actually called, but I replaced this front part, which is exactly the same color as the rest of the Air Chariot, just so that I would have a little bit of that shimmering gold look to this thing. I think it helps a lot if you just take the original one, which fits, it's still compatible, and put it on the new one. One improvement on the new one is that this Cobra mouth on the front actually does open. So it's unfortunate that it's this dull color, but that's really cool that it will actually open, and it looks like there's maybe a cannon in there. So that's another gun too. I love that. That's a cool little addition. They've upped the guns too. They've improved the sculpting on the guns to include these hoses. And rather than just having stickers like the original one had, sticker details in here, the new one, this is actually molded in plastic details right there. And the this part, maybe it was assembled incorrectly. I'm not sure. This looks like maybe this should have been more inside, sitting more inside like this one, but I'm not going to bother trying to take this apart and possibly breaking these pegs to fix it. I don't really care. And then underneath too, you see this black part right here is painted detail. It was just gold on the original one. And the pivoting head works the same as the original one too. And then you've got these, same deal, they're just fins on the back, but they've added just a tiny bit of gold paint detailing right here. But when you compare them side by side, it's just really obvious that, especially in hand, I don't know if the camera really does this justice, because this looks shiny, but it's so dull compared to this beautiful gold material that they've used here. And there were a couple of different anniversary Serpentors. This is actually the only opened one that I have. I don't have an opened one of the carded Serpentor. This is a custom that I picked up on eBay a couple years ago. There was one that was included, I think, with the DVD set, which did include this back part, so small compared to the vintage one's back part, but at least it's there. And the cape is different too. It's more of just like a soft cape. It doesn't have any gleaming, glimmering in it. But what a difference a gold paint job makes. Just so much nicer when this guy is all decked out in glimmering gold. And I've been meaning to do a top 5 custom figures in my collection, and this guy will definitely be on that list, because whoever created this did a fantastic job on it. And there's that sword that he's that the single carded version comes with as well. I think really adds to the look of the figure. And this Cobra staff too, which is painted the same metallic green that appears on this figure. So that's a really cool rendition. The DVD version of Serpentor looked a little bit closer to the original figure version. Not quite totally a true rendition. He still has this skirt on him, but that's closer. It's a little better. He also came with a snake, but it's this little tiny guy. It's more like a garden snake compared to the big cobra, this giant king cobra thing that the original one came with. So, and it's kind of feels a little more rigid, but it's nice that he still included a snake. So that's I mean, that's nice, but it does not compare to the original one. This is really a gorgeous piece, and I've seen him at a couple of toy shows, and he commands a pretty high price.
This I command!
So that's the 1986 Cobra Emperor Serpentor with Air Chariot. Definitely one of the most eye-catching pieces of the 80s G.I. Joe Real American Hero line. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Big thanks to the Patreon tribe, who are the DNA of this YouTube channel. If you have a Serpentor question or comment, form a thought in the comment spot. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Yo, Joe!
Cobra! This I command!